there. I am Joseph Rybant. I'm the executive editor at Dynamite Entertainment. Joined here by Vincent Faust. Vincent, what's your title? Marketing coordinator?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. I didn't just give you a promotion, did I?
No.
Okay. We'll do that. We'll do that in the next one. And joined in particular here with Stephen Mooney. I'm saying that right, Stephen?
Yeah, you can throw me a title if you feel like it. I'll take one.
Writer extraordinaire. That's a trope that's kind of boring, but this is our first meeting. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
And you are in, are you in Dublin proper?
Dublin.
Or
Yeah. The town of Dublin, yeah.
Dublin, Iowa. So that's
kind of Ireland.
Yeah. And we can hear it in your voice. It's very attractive. So very great to meet you.
And you, man. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's nice to put some faces to names.
Yeah, we've been working together for, certainly since the pandemic started, but I don't actually, this whole last year has been a bit of a blur, but it was definitely last year when we started. Do you remember when?
When exactly? I don't.
Fall, maybe summer.
Yeah.
But your work had come to our attention, and we had plans. We were dipping our toes into crowdfunding original content, and your name had come up because you had been doing some crowdfunding with your own properties, and we talked about Betty Paige. And we produced a one-shot, which has not been printed yet, but the campaign is complete and files are heading to the printer. But talk a little bit about who you are. I mean, what have you been doing? How'd you get your start?
I started a long time ago now. 2006 was my first American work, and I had been working in the Irish UK scene for a couple of years before that on small press stuff. Chris Ryle at IDW hired me in 2006 for it was a CSI comic. I wasn't that big a fan of the show, but work is work, so it turned out okay. And since then, I think I did about 5 or 6 years on a lot of licensed stuff like Joss Whedon's Angel and stuff like that. And then I eventually got to the point where I wasn't really getting to draw the kind of stuff that I enjoyed, which was the more pulpy action adventure, I guess you'd call it old school in ways, style of thing. So I came up with my own book, Half Past Danger, to kind of scratch that itch without really knowing, like anyone, whether it would ever go anywhere, if anyone would buy it, if anyone would even take me seriously as a writer, because I'd only been an artist up until that point, and I'd really only had aspirations at that point to be an artist. So now, about 12 years later, we're in a few series of Half Past Danger, and it's done pretty well, thankfully, and I've written bits here and there for other publishers too, and now I'm delighted to be doing with you guys. You're talking about Betty, and I'm a big fan of that kind of golden pinup era, 1950s glamour stuff. I mean, it all ties into the stuff I do myself as well. So I can see why you thought I might be a decent fit for it. And hopefully it's turned out that way.
What is it about that era and that way of storytelling, the pulpy stuff that appeals to you? Is it something that you brought over from being a kid? Is it
Well, it reminds me a lot of the stuff I'd watch with my dad. I mean, over in Ireland, and it's probably the same in England and UK as well, we had that huge romanticism of the Americana, the stuff post-World War II, where we thought everything glamorous was happening on your side of the water, and all the good music was coming from there, all the good movies were coming from there. And I mean, there was obviously a bit where you guys were looking at the Beatles and everywhere else and thinking the same thing about over here. So it's always the grass is greener on the other side. But I definitely grew up with the love for the romanticized cowboy aspects of the Wild West and the cars in Hollywood and LA in the 50s and all that kind of stuff, the beautiful women. I guess I was just steeped in it from a young age, and it hasn't left me. I'm still the same kind of mental age. I'm sure we're all the same when it comes to that aspect. And I still love that stuff, and it really suits me, I think, that kind of material. I know I've got a decent handle on it.
I mean, obviously, if I were to say it didn't suit you, I would be
you hired me.
It would be over. But
whoops.
It's tough with something like when we signed Betty Paige, the rights to do comics. Like I've told this story before. I was like, I have no idea what we're going to do here. Betty is known for a very particular thing, and some of it's a little seedier than other aspects. but the purity of the romanticized part of it is what we kind of drew ourselves to. And the original series writer, David Avallone, he and I had a conversation about it because I had explained to him, I don't know how we're going to crack this. But then I think he gives me credit for the idea, but I'm sure it was more collaborative, but just, setting her as an aspiring model and actress and throwing adventures at her, kind of what you could imagine if the original actress and model had gone that route in Hollywood in the 50s, rather than just being a pinup model. If she'd gone to movies, what kind of one-dimensional stories would they have thrown at her? It's kind of like Elvis. They threw movies at Elvis so he could sing, half the movie, and they would have probably thrown something at Betty where she could be a model half the movie. But it works, and it allows the writer and the artist who's doing it, the leeway and the fun of that era. And crazy adventures. I think you pushed it more extreme than David did. Just not so much in the one shot, but I think more so in the mini series that we've got, just with the more fantastical elements, which I think is a good thing. So how did you approach that first one shot? I know you had read some of what we had done, but I'd also thought you didn't have to be beholden to anything. We were looking for something that stood on its own, didn't ignore what we had done, but also stood on its own.
Yeah, well, I read all the previous material and I really enjoyed it. I loved the artwork as well. Julie saw it. I thought he was great. His art. And the concepts that you guys came up with, I think they're really strong and they still form a good base. I love the secret agent aspect where she could be deployed on kind of, at that point, cases where nobody else had a clue what they were doing, and she was kind of feeling her way with the supernatural aspects as she went. And there was a little bit of that in David's stuff with the other dimensional creatures and things. So
right.
I kind of wanted to keep that direction. And maybe in my head, I had her and Lissa. I think Lissa's a great character as well. I kind of was thinking of them in a Scooby-Doo, Mulder and Scully type of pulpy scenario where I could see them investigating these cases nobody else wanted or had a clue how to deal with, and they just get thrown at them because they were the girls in the office, and Knight would know that they were capable of handling them. So I think David definitely sowed the seeds of that. So I wanted to pull on that thread a little bit for the series in Ireland. And then as the one shot, like you say, it's a little bit more straight up my alley with just the pure kind of pulp storytelling with the action adventure stuff, which is always fun. I mean, there's certain staple tropes and ingredients you can have, but once you put a little, Betty lends herself well to giving that a little bit of a spin that it might not have beforehand, and therefore you're looking at it slightly through a new lens. I think that she brings just that effervescent personality she has, the real Betty had. Like it's great because she would throw herself into these scenarios. We theorize that and she usually lands on her feet, maybe a couple of bumps on the way, but therein lies the fun.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think the visual appeal of Betty Page is what's caused the character and the actress and the model to persevere. I mean, you know, there is something in that smile that has kept it a brand, made it a brand, and kept it something that you could do these types of things with. You know, real like just, you know, dictionary, picture perfect, you know, Americana 50s, you know, going forward. So,
and then there was such a resurgence in that kind of stylistic with girls around the world who were, that pinup style was coming back cyclically. So that poured itself back into people becoming aware of Betty, who mightn't have been, like myself, in the last 20 years, or only figuring out who she was at that stage and wondering if she had any great adventures we could read about.
Right. And when we had internally, we had decided, you know, we wanted to do the one shot as a crowdfunder again. I think your experience, you were just coming off of one, or you were active with one. Talk
just coming off, the Half Past Danger. Oh, sorry. Oh. Yeah, it was. I've always had a thing for Christmas specials since I was a kid. Like we'd have these hardback, we call them annuals on this side of the water. I don't know if they had them in the States. They were like a kind of a 64-page hardcover. I guess it's more of a European, like a Belgian French kind of band as an e-comics thing, and I had aspirations to do one of those, but I don't know how commercial in one shots in stores are right now at the moment. I hadn't got enough information maybe to be sure that it would do well in the store if I put it out, so I figured Kickstarter might be the best bet because of the pandemic, and I was giving myself a couple of months in between other jobs I was pencils down on, like so many other people. And I owned the property, so I could obviously just do that when I wanted to do it. And there seemed to be a bit of a clamor for more. So we did a pretty successful Kickstarter for a one-shot Half Past Danger special, which invited lots of other Irish people on board, like Dec Shalvey and Will Sline and Nick Roach and all the Irish guys you would have known, to kind of play with my toys a little bit. And it turned out really, I mean, listen, I'm not going to kid myself. I don't know if I'd do it again. You guys have a publishing wing and people who post them around the world for you. I don't know if that's what I want to spend over a month doing next time. Yeah, I know there are crowds you can employ to look after the shipping and P&P side of things, so maybe I would do that. But it was definitely a good experience, and people seemed really happy with the product. So yeah,
you did it all yourself.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I mean, like I said, a couple of the lads did guest stories that I would write, and they would draw them. Declan wrote and drew his own, but other than that, I did pretty much everything. I was kind of just to fill time as much as anything, just to see if I could. You know,
I guess what I mean by that is also you did you do the shipping and the
everything?
Yeah, that's
well, my mother helped a bit, if that counts, and my wife, but they weren't happy about it.
Well, they had to, right?
Yeah,
no, it's not like they
cheap labor.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think, you know, for aspiring creators out there, there's never been more opportunities. You know, not that you're an aspiring creator, but just, you know, there's never been more opportunities to get your work out there yourself. But what a lot of people don't think about, and even from a company standpoint, is the logistical aspects and how long it all takes. Not only did you have to write it, draw it, and, you know, get the help of your friends, but then you got to print it and you got to pack it, and, you know.
And then the postage side of things, the mailing systems were, they were basically on their ear. Now that was due to the pandemic, but I sent copies out in December that we're still getting there this month. Yeah, to some parts like, say, Alaska or Hawaii. There was one in Brazil. A guy in Argentina messaged me the other day, said his had just arrived. I'm just glad they're getting there in this environment. You know, I mean, it bounced around some channels somewhere and ended up there. So, but it's definitely a great learning experience for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think as we do more and more, and maybe I think Betty was our first. Vincent, was Betty the first original content?
Elvira.
Oh yes. You know what? They were done kind of. Betty was right after Elvira, I think, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And it went super smooth. You know, you were super helpful in the fact that, you know, you weren't able to on the miniseries, but on the one shot, you found the artist. I mean, she was someone. Maybe you could talk a little bit. Yeah, talk a little bit about how you were aware of her work.
It goes back to when I started. I worked with an Italian artist called David Messina quite a bit back in the day. So I'm ancient now. And he teaches a course in Rome, a big Italian comic book course. So I knew he had a very high percentage of female students. And working on Betty, I was thinking it'd be cool if we could get some some ladies maybe, and so it just wasn't us boys kind of directing this amazing female character. So I asked David for his recommendations, and there were two, and I remember sending both of them on to you, which I both thought they were amazing, and one was available and one wasn't.
Right.
So Georgia was the one that we went with, and I'm so glad we did. I think she's actually even better than I thought she was. It's always different when you see pages coming in every day as opposed to seeing them on the page when they're printed. And her attitude was great, and her storytelling, her pacing, all the nuts and bolts stuff I thought was really strong. I mean, it's not like we found her. She's got a great career of her own. Right. So I'm hoping we can get to something maybe with her down the line again. I think and I think she enjoyed doing the book too, from the email she sent us anyway. Yeah, she seems like a really lovely person.
You know, having done this for a while, I don't want to jinx myself, but you know, it was super smooth. You know, you were a joy to work with. You were easy to work with. The licensor is easy to work with. The artist was easy to. Everything was super easy to work with, and actually we're fortunate in the sense that the miniseries that we're working on currently, you know, different artist. We weren't able to, you know, we asked Georgia if she wanted to, but she had other work, and that happens. But the artist that we're working on is working on issue 3. You just sent over issue number 4, script number 4. We're way ahead of things. And one of the things that you and I had talked about was thematically, you know, since you were going to be writing both, allowing the one shot to be its own thing, but also, you know, the character as a whole is having this adventure and she's having these adventures. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the miniseries and how the interaction between the two.
Yeah, I remember at the start, I was going too far into that direction where I was maybe married a little bit too much to what David had done in the previous series, Betty. And you were just telling me maybe just I didn't have to be so beholden to that, maybe just feel my own way a little bit more. So by the end of the one shot, I mean, we dropped a couple of little threads that we were going to pick up again in the miniseries, and we do. And I think in the timeline, Betty's timeline, it's probably a matter of weeks apart between the two adventures, as Liz is referencing it as they go, and we have a little callback at the start. So yeah, I definitely, to my mind, it was like maybe the one shot was the first 2 issues, and then the next 5 issues were the next story. Like I definitely hadn't got them separated. It's 2 very different things in my mind. It was this Betty story that leads into this Betty story, as if the whole thing were maybe an ongoing art. So they weren't divorced from each other at all, but they're definitely, like you say, there's a very different flavor to either one. Like there's a little more kind of spooky goings on in the Irish one, where we kind of play into some of the old myths and legends of the Irish kind of folklore creatures, which, I mean, being from here, I've seen the hokey side of that, where, you know, you've got the greeting card aspects of the leprechauns and even banshees and things like that. But I thought it'd be kind of cool if we maybe took a bit more of the real lore we have over here for things like banshees and even to an extent zombies, and put that into a book, which I haven't seen come from the States before. And then, like I say, you throw Betty into that environment and Lissa too, and you see how she bounces off and how she reacts, and that's where you get the kind of the meat of your story, I think. And it just went from there. And I found it pretty smooth going. I mean, obviously there was a little bit of back and forth with editorial, but like you say, there was no, I don't remember us having to chop the legs off it at any point.
No.
So yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, so far. Yeah. Well, you know, we're pretty far. Like I said, we're pretty far.
I mean, yeah, and I got the beat sheet done for the last issue. So unless something dramatically goes wrong, you'll know it was my fault.
The wheels would really have to come off the cart, you know, at this point. But
Do you like ghost stories? I hope so. My name is Lawrence, a husband and a father. In life, I was a professor of religious literature and history. If I was still alive, I guess I'd still be all of those things. But I'm not. I'm dead. Like I said, ghost story. Believe me, I never imagined I'd be here, helping others heal in the afterlife. So where is here? This is the scene. It's the middle place where souls must confront the traumas of their past. Here I lead souls away from their demons that haunt them. I must also defend these lost souls from others who would prey on them. To do this, I use the power of the Staff of Truth to help them break free. It isn't easy. Clearly, they need help and hope, and that's where I come in. I am a guide of souls. I'm the shepherd.
So, Vincent, do you want to throw anything in here? I don't know if I've covered.
Yeah. I'll jump in with a couple things, and we put some questions out, seeing if we can get some social media response. So some of this that I'm going to jump in with is from there. So one thing I do want to mention, so we've been referencing how we did a Kickstarter one-shot. We haven't fully decided yet, but there's a chance that we may bring it over to Indiegogo as well, especially now that we've officially announced the miniseries. And people who are pre-ordering the miniseries right now at their local comic shop, which it's in the April previews for a June release. So you can pre-order right now. But if you miss the one shot, you can jump into the new story totally cold. But again, we're considering bringing it over to Indiegogo as well, just in case for those who missed it, and especially now that we've announced the series and that there will be a connection. So I guess if you're in the comments and you missed out, you could let us know below. Otherwise, just stay tuned to all Dynamite's newsletters and social media. Stephen, obviously, make sure to follow Stephen. We'll probably have some kind of links and accounts below to make sure you're following all of our creators. But earlier you mentioned how you got some Irish creators on your Half Past Danger. And as well, the new Betty series, you have her traveling to Ireland, as you mentioned. I don't want to, necessarily pigeonhole you, but I'm interested if you want to talk about kind of both angles of that. Really, this is two questions. If you want to just hit them back to back, is I feel that especially in recent years, there's both an influx and a kind of surge and popularity and success of a lot of creators coming out of Ireland who are working in American comics and worldwide as well, and then also kind of the fun angle of setting the story basically in your backyard.
Yeah, there is definitely something in the water at the minute with the Irish creators. We all started out, just myself, Declan Shelby, Nick Roach, Will Sliney, Stephen Thompson. There's about at least 10 full-time pros now, and Ireland is very small. Now, bear in mind, it's very small. It's I think it's about 80 miles across if you're going laterally. So you can drive across the country, or no, maybe more than 100. Maybe it's less than 3 hours to drive across the entire country, across the middle. So we're small. And we were all in different counties. I was in Dublin, and some of the lads were in County Cork or in County Wexford or places around. So none of us were really aware of each other until obviously the internet changed everything like it did for everybody. And we realized there was other people in the country aspiring to do the same thing. I mean, Garth is the obvious Irish example, although I think he would consider himself more of maybe a UK denizen as opposed to, he's from the north up near Belfast. So that's, I don't know if he'd call himself Irish strictly, but we looked up to him as the Irish guy. And we saw that he was doing a great job, and you kind of have that aspect of, well, listen, if somebody's doing it, I'm as big a chancer as the next fella, I can probably make a go of that as well and see if we can hoodwink the industry the way he did. So we got together about we're very close. We're all very close, and we had a blog we did together called the Eclectic Mix, MICKS, and we do a weekly thing where everyone had one day and we'd all do a piece and we'd challenge each other and push each other and try and one up each other. And we still do that now. Like I might send Declan scripts to Proof, and he might do the same for me or Nick, and we do maybe a little quick editorial pass before I'd send on to the guys just to make sure that there was nothing blatantly stupid in there that shouldn't be. So it's a great resource, and we're all very tight knit. And basically, most of them would owe me a favor anyway. So I roped them all in when I was doing the Half Past Danger one shot, because I didn't have time to draw the whole thing myself, but I could write most of it. So the lads all did maybe 5 or 6 page stories, and we'd actually never really worked together. You'd think we'd all done loads of stuff together. We all got in through different avenues, and we're all in different publishers at the minute. So it was nice to get everyone on the same page, literally, for once, and have a laugh about it. Normally we're the big cliche. We do half it from the pub if we could, but they're all closed like everywhere else. So it's just this, and it's Zoom, and it's everything else, and it's just lads kind of taking the mickey out of each other online as much as ever.
Is there a disconnect between the Irish comic scene and the English British comic scene, in the sense of, like, I know a lot of British creators, they get into the system with 2000 AD, but
Yeah.
I can't think of Declan or any of the other guys you mentioned doing work.
No, none of us went that avenue. We all started straight with the US, like Marvel, DC, that kind of stuff. I mean, there's no beef, if that's what you're asking. Like, we get on really well.
I wasn't implying anything nefarious. It just seems like, I know Garth. Garth did a lot. You mentioned Garth. He did a lot of work for 2000 AD, obviously, but maybe he was the exception. I've never really thought about it that way. So,
well, there was John McCrae, who was
that's true.
Northern, but I don't think John. I think John was like us. He went straight to, unless I'm mistaken, he went straight to the US market. I'm not sure. I don't remember him doing 2000 AD. 2000 AD was a huge comic, even when I was a kid, but it's ridiculous even to say it. But it always felt to me like a very English comic.
Yeah.
So not that it's mad sectarian or anything. There's none of those overtones, but it just never appealed to me. Whereas, like I say, the romanticism of the Americans. So I was into cowboys and movie stars and things like that. Was what I wanted to read. And the American comics had that. They had that glitz, of the glamour about them, that the UK were more earthy and grounded, and it was boots on the ground kind of war stories and things. It's just didn't appeal to me as much. But it's interesting you say that, because it is true. None of us really did go the 1000 AD route. Right. And I'd say like 90% of those English guys and Welsh, they probably did start out that way. So that is an interesting kind of an angle. But yeah, no, we all started, I went to IDW and then DC, and then a bit of Valiant all over, then Marvel, and currently all over. And the lads are the same. We don't really have that single avenue we all funneled into and then dispersed, like the big British invasion, like they call it, through 2000 AD.
Right. Yeah, the lines have definitely, being around as long as I've been, and the lines have definitely changed in terms of, if I don't think there's a movement like there was in the 80s and the 90s for, a UK movement or whatever. Now it's just, good creators find their way to good projects, or you do your own project. The nationalism and the lines are definitely not as not as prominent, except as you said, within your local scene, you knowing your friends and getting together and creating your own stuff or whatever it is. So I'll let Vincent have the last word here if he has another question or plug, but we're not going to name it because we haven't announced it, but we are going to be doing another project with Stephen that he's going to be writing. And he told me he could do a cover only on the first issue. We'll see if we can change that. I know he's busy, and he said I can only do a cover.
I have to cut something off. It's I'd love to do more, but yourself, like it's so hard to say no to any good stuff in this industry, and then you're worried in 10 years you'll have no offers, so you're like, I'll take it all.
Well, I'll hit you up. I'll take the one cover and I'll hit you up about more. But I understand you've got other stuff, but. We're originally hoping that we were going to put that out in August. We're still finalizing a few things. Got to find an artist, and I was actually just thinking maybe I'll drop Georgia a line and see if her work. But no, we'll see. But that's just a quick tease. Like I said, we can't name it because we haven't finalized a few things on our.
It's a good one though.
It is a good one. It is a good one, and it was a thing where. And that's also, it's kind of how it happens, a project comes up and, I'm coming off of just working on something with you and I'm thinking, well, you know what, this fits checks those same boxes, pulpy and in your wheelhouse for sure. So, I haven't read what you sent me this morning, but I'm looking forward to it. So
I just had to get that in before I met my editor face to face. I'd done my homework. I was like, look, it's on your desk. Okay.
It is. It is, as promised, too. I will say, Stephen has hit every deadline. So he's hit every deadline writing. He drew 3 pages on the one shot and all of his covers. And,
There's a secret to that, I'll be honest with you. It's because all the Irish people are terrified of losing their jobs. It's an Irish Catholic thing. We don't miss deadlines. We try and do our best work all the time because we're all scared, SHIT-less, that the work won't be there if we don't. That's the true story.
Well, and the biggest what is the cliche, whatever percentage of success is just showing up. But being good hitting deadlines, being, easy to work with in that sense. You don't have to be easy to work with in the sense that, you won't fight for something that someone tells you can't do, but easy to work with in the sense of, deliver your script, deliver your pages, deliver your work.
It's common sense.
Yeah. So, Vincent, any last words for Stephen or on the project?
I guess a tiny plug, and then I'll let Stephen have the last word, kind of touching on this, just so that fans can hit the back issue bins and maybe pick up some collections that they can order direct from Dynamite or from their local comic shop. Number one, Stephen mentioned all the publishers he's worked with and, jumping around all the way. I did want to mention some of the things that he's done with us in the past already. He did some art on a James Bond series written by Greg Pak. And I was kind of curious if you want to, we're slightly running on time, but if you want to quickly note,
let me in.
How perhaps even some of that kind of spy angle mentioned on Betty Paige, but also one last thing, especially for the back issues, this is actually not even the Kickstarter one shot, not Stephen's first work on Betty Paige. He did a Frank Miller homage style cover for the previous series that we wrapped up, which was written by Carlo Pacheco, who also writes Spider-Woman for Marvel. And that was a whole set of Frank Miller-inspired variants that Stephen did. So also, if you want to also potentially squeeze in, if we have the time, any kind of artistic influences, especially since you are doing covers on this Betty Page series that people can pick up.
Yeah. First, to touch on the Bond thing, Bond has always been a big one for me, and I knew Greg was on the book, and obviously he's a great writer and a big name, so I was keen to work with him. So I think Nate was my editor on that one, Nate Cosby, and I'd probably been bothering him for a while to do something related to Bond. I had a cover done for the original. It wasn't Greg's first arc; it was Warren on the first arc, I think. Warren Ellis.
You did, I think you did an alternate.
I did a cover for that, which would be one of the earlier covers I had done for Dynamite, I think, and I was delighted even to get that. But then when I was offered, I know Mark had been doing the interiors for the first 3 issues, and then they asked me that I wanted the second half, and I was on it like a shot. That was another one I had to shift stuff around. I had Black Widow for Marvel lined up at that point, but Bond is Bond. I still have aspirations, by the way. I'm gonna hunt down I don't know if that license is even still at what time, but I would love to do more Bond stuff at some point.
It's still with us.
Yeah, I would be all over that. And then again, like you say, Vincent, the spy angle is something. I have a character in my own book, my Half Past Stranger book, Agent Elizabeth Huntington Moss, and she's. I always think it's like if James Bond and Catwoman had an illicit kid, that she would be the result. So I definitely like to kind of play up those angles too, the espionage and the stiff upper lip aspects. Which Bond is, just the right side of campy. It's that fine line. I think that stuff is great. So there's definitely elements in Betty. Conscious elements, actually, like when she's in McKnight's office and she's being deployed on certain cases, that I'm thinking about those aspects. And they were really well done by David and Julius in their book as well, where she was the mission she was on in England, where she met the Queen, etc. I thought they did a great job with the Connery-esque secret agent that they encountered. So yeah, I mean, those flavors, it's all good stuff. It's just how to know how to marry that with the existing material and not make a mess. It's just how to know what little piece of this ingredient and a little soupçon of that, and make sure it makes something better, as opposed to just this narrative kind of mess that there's no pacing and there's no real direction. That's the sweet spot you got to find. So hopefully we're getting there.
Oh, I think we got there. I might be biased, but I think we got there. So.
Do you like ghost stories? I hope so. My name is Lawrence, a husband and a father. In life, I was a professor of religious literature and history. If I was still alive, I guess I'd still be all of those things. But I'm not. I'm dead. Like I said, ghost story. Believe me, I never imagined I'd be here, helping others heal in the afterlife. So where is here? This is the scene. It's the middle place where souls must confront the traumas of their past. Here I lead souls away from their demons that haunt them. I must also defend the lost souls from others who would prey on them. To do this, I use the power of the Staff of Truth to help them break free. It isn't easy. Clearly, they need help and hope, and that's where I come in. I am a guide of souls. I'm the shepherd.
Yeah, actually, we're getting the nod. If you've got a few more minutes to keep going just a little bit, we were originally going to keep this to maybe a little half-hour segment, but if we can go just a little bit, do you still have some time? I know you.
Yeah, I'm on your clock, so I have to go back to your script.
It's funny, I didn't realize, but I'll actually be doing one of these with Garth later on today. So I've got my Irish contingent my book for the day. Are you one of these? And I learned this from him, and I kind of knew it, but his dislike of St. Patrick's Day is, he's written, there's a whole issue of The Boys that's all about, his is it obnoxious from your end too, the American green beer celebration of all things Ireland?
To an extent. Listen, the more the merrier. I mean, the Paddy's Day with a T, with two T's, we all hate that. But as long as it's Paddy's Day with two D's, I mean, I've been over in the States during Paddy's Day and had one of the best sessions I've had in recent memory. Over here, it's so huge that nobody goes into town because it's just the 18-year-old lads with their pints sitting on the banks of the river and making a mess and throwing up everywhere. So it's become a bit. I don't think it's cliche, but it's just something you need to actively avoid. I mean, I used to be that guy 20 years ago, so I can sympathize. But I certainly have no problem. Listen, I play up that stuff. I mean, there's an element of that in the new Betty book as well. Like, I love that old school Irishness that comes with that. And I think it engenders goodwill around the world, so towards Ireland. So I'm not gonna piss on anyone's parade. You know what I mean? Listen, if everyone's having a good time, have at it. Just spell it with two D's, not two T's. You'll be fine. Okay. Yeah, that's how we spell it. We can say St. Patty sounds like his wife or something.
Right. And how was this most recent St. Patty's Day in I don't know, is
weird. Yeah, in
Dublin?
Yeah. We usually have the biggest parade in Dublin, like the big Irish Paddy's Day parade. So that didn't happen, obviously, because nobody's allowed to show up. I'll be honest with you, I was working and I forgot it was Patrick's Day until my wife, who has a real job and gets the public holidays, told me, because it's a national day holiday over here. So I was like, all right, Jesus, I didn't remember, because everything is so off the radar right now. Right. It's just a case of get up to the studio up here and do a bit of work. And then we have a very small new little boy, Charlie. So anytime I'm not working, I'm just spending it with him and playing with Lego or whatever. So yeah, things like that aren't as much on the radar. Next year, though, ask me that question next year. We're still doing these things. And I'll probably have a much less sober answer for you.
Right. Have you guys gotten your shots? Has that happened there? Not yet.
It's rolling out. My parents over 70s are scheduled to start in April, so that's very close. But then I think it's August. I think we're looking at it the earliest over here. So I don't know. That's what we're wondering about conventions this year. Is it going to be a case worth going to New York, or the back end of the year, will it still be a dodgy thing to do? There's going to be all those conversations. But yeah, nothing so far. But I will say it's not locked down over here, but the numbers are down and everything is relatively under control as much as it can be. So I think we're okay. We're doing well.
Yeah, it's been a weird year. I mean, it's interesting to look back and, in a lot of ways, in terms of the stuff that we have done and the stuff we've put out, nothing changed. Comics were still coming out, collections were still coming out, books were still going to press every week. I mean, there was a brief period of time where, early on, everybody was freaking out and everything shut down. Diamond shut down for a little bit and comic shops were, not getting books, but that all went by pretty quickly in retrospect, even though it seemed at the time like it was, a lifetime. And you kept working during all this. Were you doing other projects? I mean, you're obviously finishing up your Kickstarter, but are you working on other things right now?
Yeah, I mean, but that exact window you're talking about where the Diamond news was coming out, it was maybe a 2.5 to 3 month window of where everything was hitting the fan and everyone was losing their mind. That's when I did my Kickstarter, because I literally was pens down on the couple of other things that I was doing. I was told, just listen, like so many people, just let's lay off this and see how the eggs are going to fall, and we'll go back to it, hopefully, which we did, thankfully. Like you say, maybe it wasn't the catastrophe that everyone predicted, but things were gradually getting back to normal. But that's the joke, isn't it? Everyone was asking me, is it not weird? It's a pandemic. Like, you're home all day. You're in a room 12 hours a day by yourself, 7 days a week. And I was like, I work in comics, man. That's, it's nothing's changed. If anything, I'm put out by the fact that my wife now works from home. Yeah. And I don't have the run of the place. So
looks like you've got a very nice space there. You've got
this is the attic of the house, so I'm up here all the time. This is would you believe, the house I grew up in? We bought this from my parents about 5 years ago. So this was converted when I was 19. And I remember doing my samples to break into comics up here. It's weird. I don't know if it's a step backwards or a step forwards that I now own this house. So
I don't know.
Or a step sideways, but it's my parents' house. So I'll take it. Listen, the real estate prices over here.
That's a pretty impressive story, though. I mean, that you're in. Was that your room?
My work room, yeah. My brothers and I share. My brother learned to program computers up here, and I was just. You can see my drawing table over there in the window. That's where I would sit and knock out terrible sample after terrible sample, so I could con somebody into giving me a real job.
Who was the first company that you sent samples to? Was it Marvel or DC?
Oh, wow. It was definitely an X-Men sample. I was a huge, that whole Jim Lee era, 90s X-Men, I was that kid. So
a lot of cross-hatching, a lot of just furious.
Oh man, you've no idea. You've no idea. Just covered. And I think I was making it with like a ballpoint pen or something terrible. Like, so it's all brown and yellow now if I pull out those pages.
Was it on comic pages, or was it on like regular paper? Okay, so you
no, initially it was printer paper. It was the back of cornflakes boxes. It was the wall. But then I graduated to, remember the Marvel tryout books, the second one that Bagley did, Mark Bagley. I got one of those, and they were like gold dust because they were real. The dimensions were correct, and they had the blue line. And I was like, okay, so this is what professionals use. I'm halfway there. Yeah, I was not halfway there.
Yeah,
we got there in the end.
When you think about the amount of information, again, I've done gone to the Kubert School and done portfolio reviews and done portfolio reviews at conventions. And when I see people who are just getting started, not people at the Kubert School so much, but people at conventions, like, you have in 2021, you have more access to information to get you further ahead than anyone has in the last 50 years of doing or whatever. I mean, there's no excuse to not know a lot of the basics, because they're all very, very easy to find, whether it's find them on Twitter or find them on YouTube or wherever it is. I mean, it's amazing.
Absolutely. It's the internet, isn't it? It's a great equalizer. I mean, when I started, it just sounds like I'm such an outlaw. When I started, the FedEx pages were still a thing,
right?
And you would send your pencils to whatever, the ink would be in the States, I guess. So they would go there and they'd be approved. And then they'd send you your originals back, maybe, I don't know, a month or two following. It wasn't too bad. But now it's a case, it's all FTPs and scans. Yep. And every tutorial you could ever think of is on YouTube, interviews with every professional you can think of. We used to schlup over to San Diego every year and do the whole, I'm sure you were at many of those, the queues for the portfolio reviews, given the reviews. I was one of those kids in the queue getting the reviews for years. And there's an element of like, Jesus, I don't know how much money I spent on those plane tickets and those hotels. But I mean, the fact so many people don't even get to do their dream job, so it's hard to begrudge. I mean, I'm Irish, so I'll begrudge them a little bit, but it's hard to begrudge the people that now, the younger people. You see these 15-year-old kids online, and their stuff is incredible. It's like I couldn't draw a lick when I was that age. You know what I mean? So the game is definitely changing, like you say. But I will say, a lot of that stuff is the kind of single illustration pin-up-y stuff, and maybe their storytelling bones aren't as good as they could be, or their the pacing, etc., basic sort of stuff.
Which is why education is still important. Our former editor of ours, Anthony Marquez, actually took over the Kubert School and is running it. And I've seen him there pre-pandemic, and obviously I think they transitioned to online during the pandemic. But that's why education is still important, in this medium.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
sorry, go on.
Oh no! I was also gonna say. So you've been doing more writing. What I mean, are you ultimately is something you want to do is write and draw just your own stuff forever? Or do you still just like drawing other people's stuff? If you get a chance to work on a property that you love, is there a preference?
It's a little from column A and a little from column B. I used to. I'll tell you when something clicked in my mind. I used to draw all night for fun. If we're on a deadline and something was needed by the end of the weekend, I'd just stay up all night and draw. And is not the case anymore. I maybe can draw till maybe 2 a.m. and I'm just drinking coffee all day, like probably most people in this business. But I just can't do it anymore. So I realized I didn't want to be 60 years old and trying to punch out pages every day, and that I might have to segue across. And I was writing my own stuff anyway and really enjoying it. And I had a couple of, after Half Past Danger originally came out, I did get a couple of people asking me if I was interested in similar kind of pulp characters, but I didn't feel, I think I was just a bit of a chicken. I didn't feel ready to do that much writing, whether it was up to snuff. But now I do feel a lot more comfortable after having done a few more years of the work, and I am kind of trying to get it to a point where it's half and half. I would never give up drawing though. Drawing is definitely my first love. And I feel sorry?
Who are some of your artistic inspirations? Maybe not comic book guys or comic book guys, or maybe just real world artists or comic book artists. Who are some of the people that influenced you to where you're at now?
It's probably mostly comic book people. I mean, there's a few real world ones like I don't know. I guess there's the Norman Rockwell story, which I'm just in awe of, like everybody else. But it was mostly formative for me. It was comics. When I was a kid, it was Hergé on Tintin and Goscinny New Jersey on Asterix and that kind of European stuff. Mm-hmm. But then again, Jim Lee was a big game changer for me, and X-Men. And I went way too far in that direction, like 2,000 other aspiring artists. So then I pulled it back a little and tried to find my own voice. But people like Travis Charest and Olivia Coipel, Adam Hughes, and then older school guys like Al Williamson, the Inks, and Safino, and people like that. Just a little bit of everything. I don't know if my stuff looks like any of those, but that's probably a good thing, I guess, because you don't really want to just look like somebody else. It's a bit of everything. Like my storytelling, I just kind of draw from all over the place and try and get something that sticks at the end of the day, and puts a smile on people's faces. So far, so good. I fully expect to get a phone call tomorrow and tell me that I need to get a real job.
It'll be an email. It won't be a phone call.
It'll be comics. It's like, listen, Mooney, you're rumbled. Out you go.
Yeah. Actually, it might not even be an email. It'll be a text.
Yeah.
It'll be a
smoke signals.
Poorly typed out text.
A klaxon will just go off at the back of my house, and I'll be like, well, gigs up, guys. Off we go. I had a good run.
You've got staying power. So, final word. Aside from the Betty Paige stuff that we're doing with you, and the project that we'll be doing later on this year, together, that you'll be writing and doing that one cover. What else are you working on? What else do you have coming up this year?
I have some Marvel stuff coming up soon, which is art, and I have writing and drawing another project, which they say I'm not supposed to talk about. So if you were the editor on that, would you be pissed off if I said it on this? Because that's my opinion.
Oh no, you can plug something else.
No, man. I think the stuff I'm most excited about now is the writing on stuff like Betty and things like that. So and then a more Half Past Danger, and then when I can fit it in. But I mean, like you say, thankfully my plate is full right now, so we could be looking at 2 years, maybe before that hits.
Right.
And then there was an image thing that was pencils down since, like you say, last autumn.
Yeah.
So I haven't got confirmed dates on that either. So it's all over the place. But I guess it's nice that you want to play different kind of avenues, not have all your eggs in one basket. So I don't get that phone call just yet. You know what I mean? Keep them all guessing. Just keep dancing so no one can catch me.
Yeah. Always keep moving. That's the rule. Always keep moving.
But listen. While I'm saying that, I am thankful to be with you guys at the minute, because I did have aspirations to work on some of those characters, and it's nice to be able to get a proper go and work with such good people. Like you were saying before, it doesn't make it easy, but it sure makes it a hell of a lot more easy, and fun to work on things like that with good people. Yeah,
for sure. All right, Stephen. Well, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. I know you're going to see that kid at some point today, probably.
Yeah,
and,
go collect it from creche.
Yeah. And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, and thanks a million for having me, lads. It's good fun. Nice to meet you in person. Maybe if we ever get conventions up and running again, I can see you on your side. And Vincent, lovely to meet you too, man.
Yep, of course.
Cheers.